Hi, my name is Fred Ermlich, and I never thought I'd be making videos with this old laptop of mine and a built-in camera recorder and putting them on YouTube. But I've made a couple videos lately, and I've gotten a pretty good response on them. Some people really liked it, and people that have been reading what I write, like on Medium and LinkedIn. I write on about 10 or 15 different platforms, and um, they like what I'm talking about. And today I was reading another one of Umair Haque's oh one of his articles on Medium about the end of the world, which I mean it really is. It's not a pretty picture. I mean, where I'm living in Panama, I feel it's pretty secure, but what Umair Haque talks about, he writes for Medium and he wrote for Law, Harvard Review. He quit that job because he thought it was really important to explain to people that how America and Great Britain and really just a whole bunch of countries in the whole world are breaking down. It's just this social collapse, economic collapse, um, and even here in Panama, where it's a self-sufficient kind of a place. Um, when the United States collapses, which is underway right now, unfortunately, it's going to affect all of us. But what I wanted to talk about is this is all like from civilization. And I want to go back in time. And also, going back in time, there's still some present in time. I wanted to talk about the history of humanity itself because we're going to get back to, we're not going to go extinct as a race, the human race. I don't have to worry about it because if I'm still alive in 10 years, well, I hope it's not true because I would be 10 years, I would be pushing 80. And uh, my life has been rougher than that. I don't think I'd last that long. So, I mean, I'm easy. This is okay with me. Um, what I'm interested in is what was it like 30,000 years ago? And the way it was 30,000 years ago, we, you know how science is getting better all the time? I mean, the scientists are not really any smarter than they ever were, but they can, I mean, how they can take DNA out of something that's been dead for millions of years and potentially even revive it, clone it like some kind of mastodons and stuff like that. And that's what we understand a whole lot about humanity and the human race way back when. I just say 30,000 years ago because you got to go way back before we started doing farming. Farming was the first giant mistake that the human race ever made. But 30,000 years ago, now 100,000 years ago, or whenever it was, about something like that, when there were Neanderthals, we were constantly at war with Neanderthals, Homo sapiens versus Neanderthals. And it wasn't a pretty picture. So I want to avoid that and move on to where we have some Neanderthal blood in us, some of us do, or maybe all of us do. And we're all from Africa. Let's just get that out of the way. Everybody came from Africa. And so it's important to get that out of the way. 30,000 years ago, what we were hunter-gatherers. We had no possessions. I mean, you might carry, your favorite sharpened rock that you use for scraping hides, for cutting meat. You'd have a few things like that. Maybe a spear tip that you can always get another stick and tie it on with some leather. But there might have been a few things, but basically, um, you have to move on. It's a nomadic existence, and there are people right now today in various places. Definitely in Africa, there's tribes where journalists have gone and got and talked to them, and also in Australia, there's whoever they are in Australia. But in Africa, there's some hunter gatherers, and it's pretty interesting. I mean, say you're a hunter gatherer and you kill an antelope sort of animal, like a big deer or I don't know the names of all of them, but this is what one guy observed is that they killed this animal and cut it open, and they didn't build a well they built a fire for them to cook the meat, but all they do is just throw it on the fire for a few minutes until it charred a little bit, but it was still raw in the middle, and they'd eat it. And then he was pretty blown away because whatever animal it was something like a antelope, a dick or something. I don't know what it was. Um, they pulled all the guts out, the intestines and everything. They tossed the intestines on the fire, and then they ate them just like that. And I mean, all the crap inside was still raw and everything, but your body gets used to that. In fact, that's what you live on. So it's very interesting. That's how we lived 30,000 years ago. We would go somewhere. Oh, because humans, what made humans great, a superior animal in the whole universe, is that it wasn't that we came down out of the trees, but I mean we did, but we were built for walking, and I know that because like I've gotten old and everything, but I walk a lot. I walk many miles or twice as many almost kilometers every day. And no matter how weak I feel or, just stuff, um, I still walk. Because I mean, there's times I get wobbly just because I'm getting old and everything, and maybe have heart trouble from when I had COVID and stuff like that. I don't really care about that. The main thing is that no matter how tired I am, no matter how anything I am, and even if I get drunk, I can walk. Or I can stagger if I'm drunk, but still I can walk forever. And you don't even hardly use any calories. I mean, I burn more calories writing or making videos than I do walking. Okay. So um the way it was is that oh, and like when there's Olympics and these marathon runners and stuff, and these Africans just like can there's some Africans that have really long legs and they are great runners. And that's the other thing is that the 30,000 years ago, our tribe, and a tribe could be like 20 people, 30, it could be 100, it could be 120, but it's somewhere in that range. There's not thousands of people or tens of thousands and not millions of people. There are times when the whole human population on Earth was less than 10 million people. Panama has a population of 4 million people, and that's enough people to populate the world. In fact, with all the climate stuff and the extraction and all the species lost and all the problems on this planet, um, it would be a good idea. I mean, right now we're at uh, just say 7.9 billion, so pretend it's 8. That's an 8 with 9 zeros after it, people. And the Earth can't support that, it ain't working. And as other species die off, the forests or there's no old growth forests really, um, and all the land is turned into agriculture and they use chemicals and blah blah blah. It's just a giant mess because there's way too many people. Now, if one out of every 1,000 people on Earth survived, then there'd still be way too many people, but that would be better. But if, okay, because you have, call it 8 billion, okay, then yeah, 1 in every 1,000 would make it 8 million. It takes away 3 zeros. So um, something like that. You can't have this many people when an organism is into population overshoot like the human race is, then they die off. It's going to happen. It has to happen. It's either birth control or die off. And the birth control needed to happen about 20 years ago. Nobody wants birth control. So that's where we're at. So, so here we are 30,000 years ago, and say we're in who knows where, maybe northern Africa when it was uh, like it was green and there were animals and everything there. And so you you set up camp somewhere, have a campfire, maybe a singer comes along. There's people that are not part of a tribe that go in between tribes. People like Homer, the Greek, way back when, that tell stories. Like rock and roll bands, they travel the world and they sing about stories. That's why they're called rock bands, 'cause they've been around for 30,000 years. So, so what would happen is, like, say you come over a mountain ridge and you go down into a valley, and your tribe is with you, and but you're with one of the hunters that can run, and you have the weapons and everything, or rocks at least, but yeah, weapons. Um, and there's a herd um, of let's just call them goats or elk or something big, mooses. And so what you do is you say, you agree, okay, we want that guy. And so you start chasing it, and it's going to run. So you just run with it, and you run for 8 hours. And it's next thing you know, you're in the next valley over. And the tribe will follow you. It doesn't matter. They know you're going to get it. And then the sun sets, it gets dark, and it's still running, and you're still running. And finally, it stops because it's out of breath. It needs to drink some water, and um, but it won't lie down or anything because it knows you're chasing it. So it stands there and it rests, and then you try to sneak up on it, and it takes off again. So that's what it's like. Well, say after 18 hours of chasing it, you finally catch up to it, or it's maybe the next day, and it finally just gets so exhausted because most animals are not capable of running forever, but humans are. We could run for a week, and but the animals can't. And so eventually the animal's just standing there, brain dead, or actually keels over. Then the whole tribe gathers and you eat it. And if you have a fire, you can cook it. And if you don't have a fire, you eat it anyway. And and that's just how it was. Worked out really fine. So that's the history of where we come from. Now, the way people were in those tribes is that men and women were pretty much equal. The women typically had woman's work, you know. I mean, it's because we're enough different in physical capabilities that that we are treated differently. And I mean that we have different capabilities because the men are stronger than the women. If a woman is strong enough, it's egalitarian is what they said, is that nobody had possessions, everybody collaborated, even other tribes would sometimes cooperate with you. It was a pretty good life. It was a pretty short life. You probably died in your 40s if you got that far. But I'm sure some people lived into their 80s. And it it wasn't a bad life at all. And we know that because of good science and good archaeologists, sociologists, and anthropologists that have studied these people. And, you know, there isn't a lot to be discovered because everything dies eventually and rots away. But they do find them, in caves that stay dry enough. Interesting. It's very interesting stuff. I'll make another video later, a better one than this, that goes from that kind of a lifestyle to the agricultural revolution, where things really, really got bad for humans. Okay, well, that's all on this for now. I'll sign off, and I'm going to see if this one's, I don't know, I'm done with this one. That's what I'm saying.